Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. TyJon Charlie here. Lots of stuff to talk about. I haven't done a solo podcast like this in a while, so don't even know how to do it, kinda. But we'll get right into it here. I guess the first thing I'll talk about is the new single I have. It's a live single. It's I recorded it over at Eclipse Studio in Bloomington, and I was there tracking a bunch of other songs, and I think I did 3 that are going to be, studio single type songs, and then I'll be releasing those as acoustic kind of versions for a while, and then I'm going to do a couple cycles where I'm doing the live songs too, and then eventually, that'll be a whole album, and then I'm going to kind of work my way back through and do like these big full band arrangements. So that's my new mentality, and every time I go in, I'm gonna try to record one live song to keep putting stuff out kind of as I'm doing all this other stuff. And once I get that first round of acoustic singles done, slow release them kinda, and I think that'll make for consistently releasing stuff. But anyway, this newest one I did, which is Premonition Man, which did the studio single release not too long ago, and I did that over at Bomb Site Studios, and took a little while, and I did all the parts myself, and it's a song about looking death right in the face, and was written on a long drive home. I was coming back from a show in Davenport, and I think the thing that kind of sparked it was I was driving, and on the other side of the interstate, people just kept using their brights, and and those late night drives, in the chorus, I talk about late night drives and how it's might be a little too dark and warm, and then kind of, I guess the narrative is I get in a little bit of a car accident and I die, and there's a lot of that I would never want to happen, but I guess the idea I'm getting to at its core in that song is there would be some relief in that, but kind of just looking at that, I don't feel like that all the time, but it was one of those nights, it was kind of a long night, we'll say, and so that studio track has been out for a while, and then I've wanted to get a nice live in the studio kind of version, so I got that done the last time I went to Eclipse, and then we spent like 45 minutes one day mixing it kind of a little bit better, and kind of I think the whole idea with a lot of the stuff I'm going to be trying recording wise is going to be as close to the especially with the acoustic tracks, making it very, very close to how it would sound if you booked me somewhere and I just show up and play. So using my own, a lot of times I try to emulate sounds that I'm getting from my pedal board, but this time I was just like, I'm just going to use my pedal board. And so we mic'd up the acoustic, so we got like the natural kind of sound of it, and then I ran a separate DI from my pedal board that was recorded simultaneously, so you kind of get a little bit more high quality with the nice condenser mics. I think we did a 4 mic spread on that, so it sounds very stereo, very big sounding, and so, and then you got the pedal board kind of underneath everything that just captures all my effects and stuff, and I think that's kind of the goal of that. And I was able to use my infinite sampler. What is it called? I can't remember. Infinite sampled. I can't think of it. Anyway, this pedal I use all the time, and kind of gets this nice ethereal kind of synthy background sound. And so yeah, I was able to incorporate that into the actual studio. So just giving it more of a how I sound naturally kind of vibe to it. So I'm excited about it. You know, it's a new plan. I always have new plans and new theories. So that's the new one. I'm gonna try to knock some stuff out a little bit more quickly and kind of just release more steadily this year and kind of keep that momentum going as much as possible. So that is the plan. But I'm excited. I really like the way this version turned out with Eric, and I think it sounds very, very good for live. And that's, you know, the best I can do anyway. You know, I struggle with. I'll never be perfect, obviously, but it was a good, you know, I felt in the pocket that day on most things, so I'm excited. And then it'll be fun when I start, you know, I get to 9 or 10 of these tracks, and then I get you know, the whole time I'm kind of going to be writing other parts, and I'm going to be working on the drums. I would like to actually play the drums on some of these tracks. I might track them here because I have a couple new little recorder things that I think I can get a pretty good drum sound actually in this room, and that way I can, you know, really take my time with it and everything. And yeah, so that's some stuff I'm excited about. If you haven't checked out that single, there's a live studio version on YouTube, and then there's the single release that you can check out on anywhere you stream. But you know, most people, Spotify is the way they go usually. But yeah, so that is out. It's been a little bit of extended process this first time, but hopefully I'll get it down to nice streamline pattern. And I don't know, just figuring stuff out kind of the first time through is always the hardest, and I'm on that in a lot of things lately. I just got this camera, which I'm trying out for my podcast here, and interested to see what I can kind of, the quality, because it's supposed to be pretty high quality, and I'm hoping, I think if there was one negative thing about the live in the studio thing I just did, it was you know, I used my iPhone to film it, and it looks okay. It doesn't look great, but I don't know. I tried to use the 4K setting, but the lighting was so low, and I don't know. It's just a stationary camera. It's like this one, a one shot, which I think for podcasting is okay. But if you're trying to record music, you know, I do feel like you benefit in having multiple cameras, and using a little bit of zoom, a little bit of movement is always nice. I feel like it kind of keeps the shot more enjoyable, or keeps the performance. And that's just something I've noticed by watching a bunch of that type of thing. So I'm hoping, you know, and I got this camera now, I'm hoping that I can use it, since it's, hopefully, I don't really know. I won't know until I edit the podcast here whether I feel like it's higher quality than my iPhone, and the iPhone's pretty good, honestly, and super easy to use. That was one thing with this camera. I was just trying to get pictures and video off it. It took me like all day yesterday to even figure out what I needed and how to do that, and so everything's always an experiment. So this podcast is very much an experiment, and which is good, because I needed more inspiration to really sit down and do one of these. I've been doing mostly guests lately, and not enough of that even. So I don't know. It's just a busy summertime, and I don't know. Sometimes it's good to take a little break and kind of decide what to refocus on, and what. So hopefully, with this camera, this will be a great addition to my, you know, vast collection of gear. So got the nice microphone going, got the nice camera going, got a good way to record live stuff, live video, you know, me covering stuff, or me playing some originals in this room. And I don't know, hopefully it's going to be a game changer, but you know, you never really know. And it was an expensive camera, but it wasn't like, you know, as much as I probably need to spend to get a super professional one. But we'll see what happens. I hope that it's better than I'm expecting when I get into the edit here. So anyway, so I'll get into these shows that this last week and talk about a few things. I guess first I'll get into, I went to a show last night, which is very kind of unusual, but Lo got us tickets to Shaky Graves at the Castle Theater, and she ended up not feeling well, so I went with my old bass player Kev, which was kind of fun since he had never even heard of Shaky Graves. So, but big influence on me. I mean, I a lot of the foot drum stuff I've seen in his videos, very inspiring and very kind of opened my eyes to what you can kind of do as just a one person band, or a one person performer. I think it's nice to have a little extra something going on, and to get like a little bit fuller sound. And I'm just always looking for ways to kind of evolve and kind of be bigger. Now this would have been back, I don't even know what year, let's say 2010 or 12 or something like that, where I would have heard of him and seen some of his in-studio performances and live performances and stuff. So yeah, it was a great show. I mean, I do feel like I wish I could have heard the vocals like a little bit better, but I don't really know what was going on there. But I mean, it was just, he is such a dynamic. I think when he sings, he gets really quiet, and then he's like really belty at times. And the belty stuff you could hear every word too, but it was like the quiet stuff kind of, I mean, you could hear it. It just wasn't, you couldn't make out every word. And I feel like he's a really good writer, so it would have been a little cooler that way. But it was cool that he did a little one-man band type performance too. I mean, he has his full band now, so I wasn't really sure I was going to see any of that, and that was the stuff that kind of originally sparked my interest, or piqued my interest when I heard of him. And he pretty much played every song I would hope he would have, and at least as far as what I like. And there was some other cool stuff, other cool songs that I didn't really know that was nice to get hip to. And overall it was a very good performance, and happy to get out and see some live music, because that's one of the things about being a musician is you don't get to see as much live music as you did when you were young, and all that stuff's what kind of inspired you to get to the party to begin with. And then you start playing shows every weekend date, and then kind of extends sometimes to earlier in the week and late, Sundays too. And it's, I don't know, it just gets harder and harder. And then it's like sometimes you do get a night off, but you're just so exhausted from all the other stuff that you're like, I just kind of want to be at home for once. But I still try to make it out when I can to different live music, fellow travelers, bands and stuff. But so yeah, it was cool to actually just get to see some live music. And then Sunday I was at the Cast Iron in Tuscola, and I was pretty worn out this day. I mean, I had the festival the night before, which I'll get into here shortly, and I don't know. It was. I didn't get back that late, but it was hard for me to sleep for some reason. When I did finally get, I was probably home around 1 or 2, and then my show was at 5, so I had to leave by like 3, a little bit before 3, and I didn't wake up much earlier than that. And such is the case for a lot of Saturday shows and whatnot. But because you're just kind of struggling from getting back so late the night before. But yeah, I did a much simpler setup than I had been doing. I actually did it one other time, which I'll probably talk about here. But it was I pretty much just did vocal guitar in the new Bose sound little speaker I have, which has been a game changer. I don't know if I've really talked about that much, but so just guitar and vocal, no pedal board, and then I had a little kick mic that I put in that third channel to get a little extra oomph with the kick drum. So about as simple as a setup as you can be. With this new Bose speaker, you don't have to even have a power cable. You can just, it just runs on battery if it's charged, and it goes like 11 hours. So I didn't even need a power cable, which was kind of cool. Just for the tear down or setup tear down aspect, hugely easier than what I had been doing, and also it's very small speaker. It's a little Bose S1 Pro Plus speaker, and super light and small and just easy to move around. So yeah, it's been very cool to have for some smaller shows where I don't need this giant setup. And so I've played at this place in Tuscola a couple other times. I don't feel like I've ever really sounded good, and I think part of the problem sometimes is, I just set up too much stuff, and then I'm battling the room to some extent for how loud I'm being or what I can hear, because it's kind of there's a lot of low end in the room naturally, and that's one of the other things about this Bose is it's really good for it has a lot of treble, a lot of headroom on the treble, and just the way it's designed in general is all geared towards clarity. So in the muddiest of rooms, it really does sound good. And I've been having some trouble in general with it lately, just because I've been trying to use my pedal board, which was set up for my JBL Eon 1 that I usually, still much lighter and easier to use than an actual PA system, but much darker, more bassy, kind of muddier sound. So all my pedals and everything, my vocal pedals specifically, is set up more for that, and then trying to battle those settings with the Bose has been, I tried for a long time just to manipulate the Bose enough to sound similar enough that it would work, but turns out I had to kind of redo my settings on my vocal pedal to have like a specific settings for the Bose. So, and that's been better, but I still am getting the best result with it when I just plug direct in. So I don't know, I'm still kind of navigating that, but sometimes I want that big setup because I want my bass pedal, I want my synth strings, I want my delay, I want my boosts. But in the same aspect, I think it's good to flex those muscles of that just plug and play mentality. And at this show, I felt like if I would have brought all the extra stuff, it just would have been way too much. So it was nice to kind of taper back and just take it kind of easy. And there's some songs that makes it a little rough around the edge, the really shouty parts. I feel like I rely on that delay and reverb on that vocal pedal sometimes. But, you kind of see, it's like a true test to see how you're really doing, I guess. And you can't when you can't rely on that to kind of carry you through. If you're a little flat or sharp into a big belty note, sometimes you can hear it like really easy with that delay and reverb, and you got to pull it back. Plus that puts it a little bit not in the forefront as much, because usually when I'm belting, I'm like the setting I have on the vocal pedal is I love that big long delay and that big reverb, and it just fills the whole room. So you hear the trail on that. It kind of gives you a little you can find your note sometimes a little easier. But so yeah, this was a test kind of, and to some extent, about just kind of being more bare bones, more naked, and can you still do those same things? And there were some spots that were a little bit tough, but overall it felt very, very good. And I do think that just in general, for some reason, this Bose speaker, since it sounds so good almost all the time, gives me a little extra confidence to some extent. And then not being stressed out from spending an hour and a half getting everything plugged in and knowing I'm going to have to do that on the way out is a nice, relief sometimes. Again, I'm not going to do every show like that, but it's been handy for some things. It's like the perfect farmer's market setup. because you're traveling pretty light. You can get in and out pretty quick. Those mornings are always hard. One of the farmers markets that I'll talk about later, super early in the morning. And it's in St. Louis. So it's like I got to be there at 8 a.m. in St. Louis. That means I'm out the door by like 5:30. And, if I can get an extra half hour of sleep because I don't have to set up as much stuff. And to some extent, it's like, do people even know the difference? I mean, some people probably do, but I mean, I don't think most people, if I say one-man band and that's what they booked or something, I mean, there's so many different levels of that I do. It just depends on the room sometimes, the pay sometimes, stuff like that. And just like, what's the easiest way to make it sound the best, I think sometimes is definitely a factor. And if I'm just playing acoustic too, it's so nice just to plug and play. But anyhow, it's the best I've ever sounded there, I think, for sure. And I was really diving in a couple fan type, the people who run Tabapalooza, the Tabs came, and I always like when I see them in the audience because they're super supportive and kind of into it, and just nice to have some friendly faces in a sea of strangers, and really supportive, friendly faces. But sometimes since they come more than the average person, I'm like, I should, try some different songs so I don't have to hear the same, 3-4 hour set every time. And sometimes I was feeling pretty good on that, on most fronts as far as like lyric recall. So I tried some real old covers that I hadn't played in forever, and like an original or two that I don't play quite as often. And it all went really good. I had one hiccup. I did My Hero by the Foo Fighters. Haven't played that one in a while. And there was a hiccup there. And then I did High and Dry, by Radiohead, which I hadn't played that live in a really long time. And I did all the words, like I remembered all the words. I was like, I got to that second verse and I was like, uh-oh, because it wasn't coming right away. But when I hit the chord, it was there. And, when that happens, you're so relieved. But that whole second verse, I'm a little like rusty on. I think I did hit one kind of sour chord on that one too, just because I hadn't played it in so long. But yeah, it was a fun show. And then the ease of the setup and tear down made it more fun. And I hope that was caught by the audience liked it too. And yeah, I think it's the best they'd ever sounded there. Now the day before was a marathon. I had to get up at I think it was 7:30 to be out the door by 8:30 because my set, it was a festival. It was the Sweetwater Festival put on by the Middle of Nowhere Music and the Duns. It was kind of like a hybrid Middle of Nowhere Music Festival / tribute to some of the Duns, and I think that's their name. I hope I'm getting that right. But so it was like an all-day music festival, and I played very, very first, and I had been talking to the main guy, Brandon, that runs it the whole time, because I was worried it was going to rain, and it really was saying it was probably going to, and so I was nervous about that. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at Dunn. So a celebration of Pat Dunn and Angela Rodhams. So that was a hybrid with the in the Middle of Nowhere Music. I did just release not long ago a live video that they put together because they're kind of like a production company / musician / Ali, I think, does a lot of visual art, but photos, videos, and so they kind of wanted to see my big setup. They kept mentioning and I was thinking as I'm first, not a lot of people will probably be there, and for ease of transitions, I didn't want to necessarily bring my giant setup because it's pretty elaborate and takes a lot of time to get everything on and off and whatnot, and the load in, load out. But they kept saying, like, it'd be cool if you did the one-man band. And then I was thinking, I'll just do a light one-man band. But then I ended up and did the full shebang because I felt like I had enough time when I got there to set everything up, and just figured I'd cut it maybe 10 extra minutes early. And they said they'd have people to help me tear down and get stuff off the stage for the next guy. And yeah, I mean, it was fine. I don't think I performed my best, but such is the case so often. And I guess, let me rephrase. I thought in the moment that it was sounding pretty good. I watched the video later, and I was not as impressed as I thought I should have been earlier. I was like, because sometimes you watch a video back, and well, you go in with the idea, oh, this was a terrible performance, and then you watch it, and it's like, oh, it wasn't so bad. It was, for the most part, pretty decent. Like and you're kind of get a little bit of relief from that. So I was thinking, when I was watching this video, I was like, I was thinking it already had sounded pretty good, and so I was like, the video is probably going to even sound better than I thought. And then I watched it, and I was like, nope, not really. And it was fine. I mean, it wasn't. It just, it being early was part of it, and doing the full setup was probably to some extent a mistake, because there's just too many things to keep track of, and it was early, and I know I can make all the excuses I want, but when it boils down to it, just wasn't as good as I would expect from myself. So wasn't super pleased with it, but it was kind of nice. I played first, so I got to spend the rest of the day there, and watch some more live music. So that was the thing I was saying earlier about going to see Shaky Graves. But a lot of good artists. I'll kind of just run through them because I don't want to leave anybody out. So I played first. California Jeff, who emceed the whole thing, played second, who's also in a group called Not Petty, which is like a Petty kind of tribute. And he was really, really solid and really good at emceeing the whole thing. Job Shores, fantastic singer-songwriter. I think he played with the mandolin player, kind of just acoustic. Devin Williams, which I was, I've been seeing a lot of his stuff online, and been really was excited about seeing him live, and he delivered for sure. He does a little one-man band, but it's like Delta blues, like old type blues, and it's really, really cool, interesting stuff. And it's kind of just random. I think 5 years ago or something, I had a show at Coconut Louie's, and his band is called Devin C. Williams and the 7-String Blues Band, I think is what his full band is called. And they had done a thing over at Distill, and they ended up, I think through our old hand percussion player, Dave Faulkner, he got them to come to our show, and then I let them play some tunes, and they were really cool and sounded really good then. But as of lately, he's been really, really killing it, I feel like, and I was super excited to see him perform. And then Dracula Johnson and Branson Anderson, which Branson was, I think he came from Utah, which was pretty wild, and very kind of interesting old school sound. Pity Thy Neighbors, they did a one mic setup, which that's always a little bit more interesting to watch. I shouldn't say always, but sometimes, because you got people like stepping up doing their solo, and then stepping back, and they had a mandolin player, the guy who ran sound kind of was jumping in with them on mandolin, and it was just a fun little performance. And then Jake Redman and the Waitin' Rounders, I'd seen some of his stuff. I'd really seen all these guys, because the Middle of Nowhere music, how they got all these musicians were, there were people that they had recorded and with their production company, and so it's like it was nice to actually meet and talk to some of these people and learn their names a little better and who's who, because it's kind of hard to do when you're just watching online. But yeah, and then this kid was young. He's like 23 and or something like that, and just writing great songs, singing very well. And I had a long talk with the guitar player, blanking on his name, but really nice guy and really really talented. He said he only practiced with them 3 times before this show, and he sounded like he'd been playing with them for a long time, and just a really really talented guitar player, which is always nice to see. And the special guest, Chicago Farmer, which, obviously I've talked about him a few times on here, but I'm, very, very big fan. And every time I see him, he gets even better. And just his storytelling and the way that he, goes from one song to the next. And I don't know, it's just always next level. It's like every time it's always levels ahead of me for sure, but then even for, a level ahead of himself every time I see him, because it was interesting this time because I knew a lot of the songs. I mean, there were a few new ones, but the stories he told were all had these either variations or he would go down a different road with some of them, and it's just really interesting to watch him and how he puts it all together. And I don't know, just very very cool. And I mean, I've been watching him since I was just out of high school pretty much. So it was, and as aforementioned, I don't get to see a lot of live music, so I haven't seen him play in a long time. So every time I do, it's like leaps and bounds. And I don't know, it was a great show. And after that was Colt Ball and Friends, and I've been seeing him online forever, and he's been kind of blowing it up on the festival scene a little bit, and he's always doing big things, and it's always cool to see what he's up to. And now he's got this band. It was like a super jammy kind of band, and it was really fun. They were the last performance, so it was an all day festival, and I was there for 14 hours or something. But it was a really good time, and again, nice to see some live music, and kind of sometimes you get reinvigorated, re-inspired when you kind of see that stuff. So yeah, I needed it. Usually that's right when you see it, right when you really need it. And the night before that, to even extend the live music part, the Make Music Normal Festival was here in town, and I had the night off somehow. I haven't had a Friday off yet this year, and don't have another one off till November. I don't have any weekend dates off till November, and I'm hoping by then I will have those ones that I have open filled, and I hope it keeps kind of continuing to go that way. But so I got to see. We saw a few songs of John Till. We didn't get there quite early, because he's who I wanted to see, as well as the Dan Hubbard, and I got to see both their sets. And again, the John Till one, we didn't see the full thing, but we saw a few songs, and it was good to see and hear him, and he always sounds great. And Dan, again, just like Farmer, just next level always. He started doing some foot percussion, and sometimes you think, well, at least when I started doing it, it kind of made everything else harder, and I was a little sloppier. But I mean, he was just as tight doing the foot percussion as without, it seemed like, because he just really talented and put on a good show. And we saw Escape Rope a little bit because they were playing at the open mic stage, and on our way out we saw a couple songs from them. So it was just super random, and it all fell on one weekend, but I got to see a ton of live music and a bunch of guys I've been wanting to see for a while, and it was just a good day all around. And we actually went out to dinner, and then we went to a late movie, so that's why I was so tired the next day, which probably a mistake, but gotta live a little when you can, I suppose, right? I don't ever have a Friday off, so, and just gotta do stuff. So I had that Friday off, but I somehow picked up a Wednesday show, and so it was all the way in Iowa, so it was a late night, kind of in the middle of the week. Really fun show, though. It was right on the Mississippi River. a place called Muscatine, which I'm pretty unfamiliar with, and they had a little beer garden, and I did kind of a medium setup, I would say, and used the pedal board and all that, but still used the Bose. It was almost there. I think that's the last time I've done that setup. I did get a Fishman acoustic amp too, because I had previously had a little Troubadour Ibanez that was supposed to be for small shows, but it just didn't quite cut it power-wise, volume-wise. So I just I decided that, you know, I need to have a good, like, tiny show, just plug and play setup where I don't have to bring anything extra. But what I've been doing sometimes is, because I do like the way that Fishman sounds, is I'll use the Bose as like an extension speaker. So I'll plug my vocals and my guitar into the Fishman amp, and then I'll run that to the Bose, because I feel like the Bose can add a lot of like nice low end, because that's what that Troubadour is kind of missing. But so you end up with this, like, the Troubadour is kind of a more MIDI, kind of not a ton of highs, not a ton of lows, but then you got the Bose that adds the lows and the highs and keeps the mid strong. So I don't know, I feel like it's a pretty nice setup when you run it kind of all together, but I'm still, you know, the vocal pedal, I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to use that with to get the right effects for the right songs and stuff. But anyhow, it was a pretty good little show. I mean, wasn't super busy, but it was outside, a nice day. It was kind of, I think it was like a 6 to 9 spot, and I ended up playing an extra hour because some people got there late and asked if I would keep going, and I did, and it was fun. And I mean, I don't know, it's always a little bit of a struggle when you first get someplace and you're just trying to get dialed in, trying to, you know, get it to sound good, and also trying to get the confidence to, you know, be the guy. I feel like there is something to that, and it's harder to do when you're just by yourself than when you have a band, because when you're playing with people, you know, you can kind of joke back and forth and, you know, play off of each other to some extent. But, you know, sometimes it's a little bit tough to find the footing when you're by yourself doing these longer sets, and, you know, because you're just there and you're in people's face and you're saying, hey, listen to me. And, you know, if they don't, you know, a lot of times early in the day and maybe they're not even ready for live music. And but the last 2 hours of that show, I just felt pretty solid, and it was having fun, and that's all you can really hope for, I think. It was a long set, and I got back super late that night, which, you know, set my whole weekend in kind of a weird funk. It's been strange. The last 3 Wednesdays I've had shows every Wednesday, and I had 2 that first one of those 3, so pretty wild. But so the Saturday before, this was a pretty wild one. It was this is the farmers market I was talking about earlier, the Vine Street Market near St. Louis. So, you know, I had to be there at around 8 in the morning and leave, you know, from Bloomington around 5:30. So long drive, play a show, and I did the light setup, which was the right choice. And the only drawback to that show really was it was really windy out and blew my whole tip jar over with my magnets and stickers and everything. So it was that windy, and I had it weighted down and everything. Pretty crazy that it was windy. And the thing was, when I got there in the morning, it was like so dead wind-wise. The sign I usually bring that my tip jar and stuff goes under has 5-pound weights on it already, but it's kind of like a sail when it's outside. If it's windy at all, it catches wind. But so usually I have this little weighted vest that, you know, I used to use to work out, but now I just use it as a sign to weight. And I made the choice in the morning. I was like, hey, I don't really need it because, you know, it's not that windy out. I feel like it'll be fine without it. Like, it was just dead in the morning. And as the day, you know, I noticed it get windier and windier, and I ended up in one of my breaks. It was a 3-hour set, 9 to 12. I think the first break, I went and got the the vest to put it on there, and I weighted it down with a couple suitcases too, and still just didn't quite cut it. And took sail and blew everything over, and oh well. But anyway, the light setup was in, not even having to plug that Bose speaker in. I charged it the night before. Super straightforward, super easy, super fun to just go. It's just a different mentality. Just show up someplace and be ready in 20 minutes and play, Instead, it's doing the super elaborate stuff I always do. There's like a mental toll I feel like that takes, and just to stay on top of all the different things I have going on. So anyhow, long set though in the morning, 9 to 12, and then, I had a show at night over near Peoria, a little bit past Peoria, kind of towards, what's that place? Chillicothe, and kind of right on the Illinois River, and didn't really know what to expect. It was kind of slow start, and this was the show I really worked on that vocal pedal. So like I spent time while I was sound checking, because it was there early enough to try to get it dialed in, and I got it dialed in kind of a lot better. And that's why the following Wednesday show that I talked about, it felt decent, even though it still wasn't quite there. But anyhow, yeah, it was a slow start, but by the end of it, there was a lot of people, and the last 30 minutes, there was a small group that was just dialed into it completely, and they were making some requests, and I was actually able to do some and playing them some original songs, and they talked me up way after, and were just really nice. And the bartender there, she books over at another place in Chillicothe that I play all the time, and she's always been really nice. So having that support is always just good, but you always want to live up to the that level of support that the person or people give you. You want to be able to kind of hold up your end of the bargain. So at first, it's still that same thing of, is this gonna be good? Am I good? Am I okay? And then it was the last hour, I felt, really dialed in, and then I had the crowd that was into it. Still a little weird on the setup, which I don't know. I just I'm constantly in a state of trying to figure out how to do new things. So it's I never feel comfortable, especially getting this Bose speaker. But, I do that all the time with different pedals and different setups, different speakers, I'm going to try this. And, part of me thinks it's because I'm bored to some extent. I play all these shows all the time, and if I did them the exact same way every time, and, just stuck with what worked the first time I got it to a decent place, it'd be comfortable, but, I do feel like I would be crawling on my skin. Same reason I don't do the same set list all the time. I changed it up pretty wildly at times. And I am doing 3-4 hour sets, so there's just a lot of elbow room, I guess, there to just mix it up and do some kind of deeper cuts of my originals or songs I played in high school randomly. I'll bust out if I feel like I remember the words good enough, or I don't know, maybe I practiced it once randomly. I'm that didn't go too bad. I could probably do that live. And then I'm in that moment, and I'm just why not? If all the cylinders are firing, it's why not? And what's the worst that will happen? I'll mess up some words maybe, or I'll hit a wrong chord. But, the scheme of a 4 hour, 4 hour set, what is that really? Does it really matter a whole lot to do that? I don't think so. And it's not like I'm playing for these people that, bought these really expensive tickets or anything. I'm just kind of there. But, I do think that adds to pressure, because I'm trying to win people over all the time. It's kind of a weird mindset to be in. I'm always trying to, and that makes me kind of fall into that cover zone where I'm just keep doing covers till I get a reaction. And I do wish I was a little bit less like that, less people-pleasing. But, the bar hires you to entertain the people, so it's you're there to do that job. It's not, you can't just do all self-promotion, all this is, I mean, maybe some people can. I just don't know how to. I wish that I was better at it. Watching Chicago Farmer was like a master class, and how to, just with him and an acoustic guitar, just how to, captivate a whole audience and get the crowd involved enough. And I don't know. I wish I had that gene. I wish I could figure out how to do that. And I mean, maybe it's a confidence thing or something. And it's just like some nights I just feel like I don't really have it. So the cheat would be just to play a bunch of covers that, everybody knows and likes. But anyway, so Trust Me Tavern was what that one was in Mossville. And by the end of it, I was feeling really, really solid and getting a lot of good feedback from the little group that was really into it, and it was fun. So, and the Friday before that, I was at Cheeks. This was kind of a dead show. I was kind of disappointed it wasn't more well attended, but it was just Cheeks was just kind of dead in general. So, but I still had the fun I could and did my job, and got to mix it up a little bit. It's always good to be able to mix it up a little bit. And and the Wednesday before that, I had I played a birthday party, but this was still, I hadn't really adjusted my vocal pedal quite right, so I was just starting to mess with it, and I don't know. I wish I would have felt more comfortable for it, because this was a guy, Corey Brown, I went to high school with. We were in I randomly got into music like when I was 14, so maybe like the summer before I got into high school, and I was playing guitar and stuff eventually in bands and whatnot. And when I got to be a sophomore, I started doing it a little bit more. I was more into it, and wanted to get better, so I took my junior and senior year. I took chorus and music theory. No, I only took chorus my senior year. I started taking music theory, and they convinced me to take chorus my senior year, which was probably helpful, but also weird to be a senior in the boys' chorus. A little humbling, but that's you need that sometimes. Anyhow, so I took music theory my junior year, and my senior year I took AP theory, and that was just me and Corey and one of the band directors, Mr. Smink, in his office every last period of the day talking music. And I think that was hugely beneficial for the way I understand music today, because we could go at my own pace, and I'm sure I was holding Corey back sometimes. He's like a music director or a chorus director at Lexington or something now. So he's pretty high level musically, and I was not. And he probably knew about as much as I know now in high school. But anyway, so yeah, overall good experience, and he hadn't really seen me play in forever, so I thought it would be cool if I sounded really good, and I sounded a little bit above average, but nothing amazing, a little sloppy here and there, but lots of really good feedback, and it was like an outside party in the summertime, and I don't know, it was fun. It was a birthday party, and it was a Wednesday. I don't get a lot of Wednesday shows, so that part of it always is a little weird. The Sunday before that, I was at Bargenta in Argenta, and they wanted the full big shebang with the one-man band, so I went hard with the setup, but I still not quite figuring out the vocal pedal stuff. So I don't know. Good feedback. I think it sounded okay. It just wasn't my best, and I was very much in that way of just trying to figure something out. But all right, and then before that, I was at Kilkenny's in Davenport. Trying to remember that show. I don't think anything too extremely amazing happened. Nothing's really, that's a college bar show that thankful to have, and they're always really nice to me over there, and I've done a lot of shows there, so they get a little bit lost in the fray as far as in my mind. And the night before that, I was at the Tap in West Lafayette, and that one was, I've come to pretty much just be like, I'm going to make it as simple as possible on myself. So I bring my pedal board, but I have all my cables in my pedal board box, and I use an in-ear, so that way, I don't really even need to hear their system, because the way they do it is they keep you back behind the bar, and then they use this Behringer X18 little mixer tablet thing that's always a little bit confusing on how to use it. And long time ago, I played there, and their speakers were all blown, and they couldn't figure out how to turn the music off that was playing in the main section. So, with those things and what I get paid and whatnot, I decide my mentality is just make it as easy on myself as possible. So I just play acoustic, because the first few times I brought all the one-man band stuff, and it was a lot of work, and then people probably didn't even know what I was doing, and they couldn't even see my foot percussion. But anyhow, so when I take it kind of like, I'm just gonna plug and play with my pedal board, and it's pretty much just gonna be me playing around up above everybody, and maybe some people will kind of notice here or there. But this time the main house speaker was blown, so I'm not sure that anybody could even hear me down there. But when you go in with that expectation, you're just like, I'm just gonna try to make it fun for myself, and it was. So and then the Wednesday before that was the double show with the lunchtime concert series at, I think it's Withers Park in Bloomington, and that went really well. I did still kind of do that smaller setup with my bows, and still hadn't quite figured it out, and it was good enough, but I was still in that very much in that learning curve area. And I'd just gotten that Fishman amp then too, so I was like all brand new. And then that night I played at Schooner's Beer Garden, and I used the same setup, but I do think it sounded a lot better there, and I was all warmed up and everything. Aaron came out that night, Aaron Newsom, and played some songs too, so that was very cool. Now, I do have like a million more shows that I haven't done a solo podcast in a while, but we're already almost an hour in, and I don't think that it's necessary to go back to every single one. But I do have the Scarface Alive Again. That's out on Spotify, anywhere you stream. That came out, I think, at the end of May. And then I just had the Premonition Man one released yesterday. And so that's another live tune that I shot at Eclipse Studios here in town. So if you haven't checked those out, they got the live videos on YouTube, and then you got the you can just stream the songs, just audio only, on anywhere you stream music. And I think Syrup is next on the docket. I got recording time coming up in I think a week or two, and I'm gonna get that polished all acoustically, and then I'll shoot a little video for it, and probably with the lyrics and whatnot, and I'll be happy to get a really good version of that one out there. So a studio version acoustically. And the other two I did, The Light and Scarface, so those are the ones that are kind of on deck and in the hole for what's to come. And hopefully by then I will have another live track to release. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. And as always, I appreciate anybody who takes the time to listen, and I will talk to you next time. All right, have a good one. Bye.